Hello friends, family, and other creatures of the sea. Welcome back to another high-level game of StarCraft 2. As today in the bottom right spawning as our Red Terran player playing for Team Liquid, it is Clem. And in the top left, a man who went to the army, came back, and started playing StarCraft again. It's of course Stats. As we have a Terran versus Protoss on our hand. What's this? I accidentally pressed the hotkey. That's the S hotkey for spending. This is the same thing as the score summary, I think. This is probably the most useless piece of information. I don't think I've ever seen this pulled up in a broadcast ever. Oh, this is some serious economy spending here coming out of Stats. Look at this crazy tech as well. What counts as tech? Oh, I guess every building that advances you into the next stage. So the first gateway counts as tech. And then the cyber core here also counted as tech. I wonder if you lose a unit, will it still go to the army spending or not? I think so, right? It doesn't make sense for that to disappear. So then in the end you have an overview, a big overview of where the money went. And you add these three up together, you have the resources mined. No, that's not true, because there can also be resources banked. And I guess there's also no... So what is economy? Economy is nexus, assimilator. Does a pylon count as an economy? Is that part of the economy? So once this finishes, that counts as a tech structure. Why does Clem have so much in tech? He's building a starport, but it hasn't finished yet. Maybe an orbital is a tech structure? This is such a useless metric, holy crap. This is actually the biggest piece of crap metric I've seen in my life. Freaking score summary. Alright, starport. We're gonna see a 4 Hellion drop. This is a Clem special. This is a build that he loves playing. He's been playing for a very long time as well. And is particularly good against what Stats is doing right here. Which is indeed a 3-gate blink build order. With a couple of stalkers. 3 stalkers. Pre-warp gate. I wouldn't necessarily call this a greedy build. But it is an interesting one. It's a weird one. It's actually not that greedy at all. It's gonna full wall here temporarily. Has he seen the factory? No, he's just full walling temporarily. That's just how he rolls. He just doesn't give a crap about your opinion. There's a temporary full wall, keeps me alive. Yes, that's indeed what it's gonna be doing here. So start by shooting some of these Hellions. It's a lot of workers here. Holy crap. Targets down the medevac. I mean, that's great, but he's still gonna lose like 10 workers here. At least. I said at least. You do need to then at least kill 10 workers, Clem. He could possibly escape now, though. Yeah, he's like, thanks for opening the door, bud. That's real kind of you. And behind us is a follow-up. We just have a tank. We're gonna see another barracks. So double cyclone. So that's, I guess, for the defense. And then we'll go for the tank marine. Also for the defense, because really all you need to do at this point is defend. You're up in workers, you have equal bases. Stats is trying to build a prism. Well, he is building a prism, and that is gonna finish. There's nothing that Clem can do about that. So starport has managed to fly back. Slowly float back in towards the natural of Clem. We see the eBay in production right now. High ground bunker as well. So Clem is making the completely correct read here. Like this is absolutely fine. If he kills 2 more workers here, at least my prediction of at least 10 is correct. Oh, thank the Lord. Yeah, at least 10. 11 workers total have been killed here. That's beautiful. God. I love you, Clem. That was so nice. Thank you for not making me look like a fool. Follow-up is going to be Templar Archives. 2 more gateways. So that brings the total up to 5. So kind of a committed 2-base play here coming out of Stats. It's gonna take out 2 workers and then we'll be forced into picking up. Yeah, there we go. Cyclones moving in. Gonna get a lock on. We'll get the kill on this prism as well. Stats, not just in a world of trouble. He is fairly dead. He is extremely out of it at the moment, I think. This is not a good look here whatsoever for our South Korean Protoss player. This storm drop will need to deal some very serious damage. Some very, very serious damage. He's cutting workers. He's just This is practically a 2-base all-in. Like, this is basically a 2-base all-in. This is nothing but a 2-base all-in. There's a 3rd base, but that's a token 3rd. It's not real. Absolutely not real. 3rd command center here is about to finish up as well, as this reactor on the factory is going to start pumping some mines. Swiftly, I can only imagine. So the only way that Stats doesn't die is if this prism hits literally every marine here. Like, right in the face. Right in the freaking face. That is all you can do. And even then, Clem already has a 3rd base done. Orbital about to finish as well. 55 workers to 50. This is close to impossible, I think, for Stats. Actually close to impossible for Stats. Like, I'm looking at this situation and I'm thinking to myself, this is not nice. That's what I'm thinking right now. Because no units. If Clem pre-splits here, this is a... Well, actually, it doesn't have that many units here either. Still a lot of tanks at home, a bunch of mines. Clem is playing this very careful. What has he seen, actually? He's seen the lack of workers on the 3rd base. He's seen the lack of gas on the 3rd. So I think Clem is making the semi-correct read here. That Stats is all-inning. Well, semi-correct read. Just the correct read. He's gonna move 1 tank. What? Where's this guy going? He's actually gonna send it across the map as a double mine drop starts heading out. We don't have an armory yet, so this is just vanilla mines. Here comes the storm drop in the natural. That's a lot of SCVs that go down there pretty much instantly. Those last 2 storms, by the way, only killed 2 workers. It's often the case with storm drops that you just really need 2 storms total. And then the final 2 you can probably just save and come back later. It's much better. Good damage here for sure. Very good damage. Here comes the mine drop. Let's see how ready he is for this. High ground burrow. Good response time. It's going to be -1 probe. In the main base, -4. -5. Pretty gnarly damage. 4th base does get thrown down. Stats somehow gets to survive. I mean, this is not a standard game at all. This mine also gets to survive. This is very rare. It's also very rare that there's just an observer hanging above the army for the past, well, what feels like the past 3 minutes. Just hadn't been spotted. Clem is being uncharacteristically passive as well. This storm drop is gonna try to head in, but there's a sensor tower already, so they should not be capable of doing very much. You can't really drop Templar while there's tanks either, and especially now that there's a decent Viking count, we have some Ghost. To me it feels like Clem is gonna be heading out for some type of push in the near future. Mine drops heading back in. We have an armory done at this point, as cannons are going up. This mine drop shouldn't realistically do any damage. Maybe if you go on the high ground, you can still get a hit, but I honestly really doubt it. Yeah, she's gonna drop it here on edge. It's gonna get the kill here on the mine before it gets to connect with anything. Clem playing a very, very passive game, which is not very Clem-like at all. Clem is the type of guy that loves being on the map, that loves having multiple drops heading out. But not here. He is playing it slow, he's playing it clean. Instant transition into Stargate. This is a very different type of game than what we usually see out of Protoss players. You know that? Usually Protoss players want to transition into disruptors. Low gas. What is Stats doing? Saying, hey, I want high gas, 4 bases. This is almost a PvZ-esque kind of eco-management coming out of Stats here. The army composition doesn't completely remind me of a Protoss versus Zerg, but it is pretty close. High battery counts as well. You see 2, 3 batteries a base. Actually just 2, I'm not sure why I said 3. There's the fleet beacon and 2 more Stargates up. Stats is gonna camp into Tempest here. Which is... This is not actually considered to be a very standard approach to the game at all. He's rushing into a late game, which is the place where a lot of Protoss players don't want to go against Terrans, especially Terrans Clem's caliber. We see Clem responding to this type of camping by adding in 3 more command centers. And I think that is an issue. Loses 2 tanks for free. I think Clem has given his opponent too much defensive credits, basically, saying, hey, you're allowed to stay alive here. Templar per base, is that the case? Yeah, Templar per base, like an apple a day, except rather than keeping the Doctor away, you keep the Bio Forces away. That's gonna connect. And this next one should get a connection once more. Feedback plus Storm is good. And 1 cannon, a battery, and a Templar hold back about 15 to 20. Well, no, there's more. It's like 25 supply of Terran units. We get a blink forward as well. We'll snipe that medevac. As 3 carriers have started. Okay, I thought he was going to go into Tempest, but it's just going to be carriers. That is even, in a way, it's even more surprising. Because low eco carriers, I mean, it's possible, it's playable, but it's not like they're that great against Vikings, you know? It's not like some type of free win. Vision here, out of stats, just want to note that, is fairly good. With 3 observers out on the map, sees a whole lot. Mothership being produced as well. Stats here, just a completely alternative playstyle to what basically every single TOS is playing currently. Completely different. This is not even remotely similar to anything we see in a standard game. It honestly isn't. Because in standard games, what do we see? We see disruptors, and we see quick expansions coming out of the TOS, not believing in the power of their army, saying, hey, I need a lot of units. I need to throw away a lot of units in order to get decent fights. And Stats here does the opposite. Hasn't built a single disruptor yet this game. Double Templar here set up. Gonna get EMP'd on one of them. Here come more EMP. Super battery active. As at the same time this mothership under a little bit of fire. Here comes the invisibility. As well as the timer. Actually gets a couple of kills on these Vikings. The carrier count is at 3. And the Viking count is at 2. Storm's connecting as well. This was a pretty decent fight here for Stats, who's staying very compact here on the map. It's not being massively out-expanded. We're still 5 base versus 5 base. Yes, more command centers are being added in. There's 5 orbitals with 2 more on the way, so it's going to go up to 7 orbitals. I mean, but Clem right now is just down 40 supply. This is actually a potential timing, although a lot of that supply is still in production. Like we see carriers here being produced. Do we have a second Cybercore? Yeah, we do. Where are you? Okay, here you are. 2-1 is on the way as double Cyclones now kind of roaming around. Templar still being left behind. We need more observers. I love the way that he's playing. I actually really like this. Stats here is simply saying, hey, what I want to do with my life is get a couple of Templars per base. Have a lot of observers spread out as well. Then I get a Stalker Colossus Archon carrier force. He has a prism around. I kind of was hoping that was going to be for Templar, honestly. As now we have nukes landing. This is a good call. But because there are so many observers, it isn't really working. And the Templar, they can hold off basically anything, at least for a little bit. That's important to remember, is that Templars are not great if the Terran has infinite time, because they can get EMP'd, and you know, eventually they'll clear the spot, but it delays. And with how compact Stats is playing, that is all he really cares about, because then he can just move his massive carrier army over and probably be fine. I'd love to see, okay, yeah, observer speed here being researched is an obviously good call. It's an obviously good call there. And now with the mothership here, I'd almost say, hey, fly the mothership around, start taking out some of these side bases. That is not quite yet what Stats is doing. He's just keeping his mothership in the main army, keeping it as a big blob, kind of. He's now trying to expand towards a 6th. And split armies, in my mind, would be the solution to what Stats is doing right now. Split armies are the solution to the problem of the carrier. As this carrier force is going to fight an army. Mothership remains with this army as well, which once again I truly believe to be a bit of a mistake. If the Viking force coming in does get spotted by the observers, this planetary is going to get taken out. Templar count still at 4. So these medevacs are going to get blasted. Going to get some zoning storms. That's 1. Hits right in the balls. Oh my god. There is a base here as well for potential reinforcements. Gonna recall home towards the other side. Would have loved to see just this mothership staying here. Oh, that would have been so great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be nice? Mothership just staying in the top right, and then your main army recalling to the left to try and take out some bases there. I'd even love to see a Dark Shrine, or just to keep a DT on this particular spot. This observer is very valuable right now. Okay, we're gonna see the split off. I think this is completely the right call. Absolutely, yeah. This guy wanted to go nuke, I can only imagine. Is that what he wanted? Yeah, there's 2 nukes. I think that guy was sending out for a nuke. Where's that mothership of ours? On the far left. That's a couple of orbitals that could be taken out. What is the ultimate late game army is my question now. Do we want to eventually transition into more Tempest? Do we want to get Tempest in the mix here? I think so, yes, for sure. Gonna get an aggressive recall though. We don't have a defensive recall available. Now, of course, in the rotation, these Vikings could potentially be vulnerable to storms. It's not what's being used. Do we have building armor? No building armor. Could definitely help against these carrier run-bys. That thing has hit here, what do you call it, a nuke. So that the location is now pretty exposed. It's 5 base versus technically 6, although this one isn't really mining at the moment. Bank, very good for stats. Let's not forget where we came from, by the way. This game was over. Clem had won it officially, or well, unofficially, he'd won it. This game should have never been closed. The carriers being split off to deal with this single liberator. Now it is a pretty difficult position to defend all these bases here for stats, but he's doing a good enough job for now. Can he ever directly engage into this army is my question. I think the answer might be no, as all Templars are going to get EMP'd. Stalker's now moving forward, and I think the Vikings want to go in here, get a couple of kills. I think there might still be 1 storm available. Yeah, 1 storm is still available. And ideally, this recall monster moves towards the right. So whenever a base is under attack, what you want to do is just go somewhere else. And that's what he's doing. Shooter once again left that mothership at home, so you can go for a recall somewhere else. Stats is now going to deny a base that isn't here yet. Not a great play. Although it does remove a bit of the pressure that was on him here. No Tempest still. I really wonder. I'm not entirely sure, by the way, which is... But... Because I just don't see games like this. I don't play games like this. I can't recall the last time I had a game quite like this. I just can't recall it at all. Don't remember. Do you remember? I wonder if Tempest are correct. It's obvious to me that these Colossus don't add a lot of value in the mix, because there's too many Vikings. Like, the moment Clem sees these Colossus as a problem, these Colossus will get deleted, right? Here the Vikings moving in, we'll get a couple of shots, keeping everything stacked as well, making it easier to get hit by the storms, but also making it easier to control them. We need 1 or 2 good EMPs here on this army, and I think every single carrier is just gonna fall. As Clem is taking a phenomenal engagement here, and it should just be capable of flying in here. I'm not sure why he's being so hesitant with these Vikings, but he's being very careful at least with them. That's something. Resources lost still fairly equal, which is rare in this phase of the game. Usually Terran starts trading much better. Although this last trade has, of course, been extremely Terran favored. And Stats is gonna lose a base here. He snipes 2 of these Liberators. Still hasn't produced a single Disruptor, which, now that I see the way that he's playing, I don't mind it too much. Because he's playing very well, but at the same time, Disruptors, of course, do serve a purpose in most armies. Is the Tempest the unit that we eventually need here? In a completely stable situation, in order to kind of utilize our range advantage? Oracle plus Tempest. Lots of cannons at the bases. Is that how you want to play? And just go for a complete split map scenario? It should technically be somewhat possible. And the higher the Viking count, the easier it is to navigate as well, these split map scenarios, of course. I love that these stalkers are just fighting against 4 cloaked ghosts. There's so much air, but there's really nothing on the ground. And then these observers keep getting sniped again and again. This is such a weird little situation here. Yeah, I was thinking, actually, Vikings can just land. You probably should have done that much quicker. I think Clem forgot about that ability. Probably should want to research the upgrade for it as well, to make that happen a little bit faster. As the Stalkers are going to push this back eventually. The carrier count is climbing back up to a decent number. Upgrades, I figure, are maxed for both. No, actually, both players missing an armor upgrade on the air weapons. Actually, also, we see Stats missing a real armor upgrade here on his Stalkers, which is kind of silly. Solid Stalker attack here. This base is an orbital, which is also kind of silly. No way that this should be an orbital. This should probably be just attacked quicker by at least just a single zealot or something. This base also is an orbital. Clem completely preparing here for an air battle, in which case orbitals are good, because you're not going to get many run-bys, but also a bit naive. It's not like there were no upgrades for these ground units. This orbital command could potentially actually die. We get a blink forward here. It's not quite going to get it. Fairly close though. The Stats not optimally microed. So we're going to get some repair on that orbital. Let's see if Stats still has more plans to deal with it. The answer seems to be no. Carrier count is growing once more, going up to, well, actually just still 7. 3 more on the way. Bring the total up to 10 soon. 2 disruptors. I'm just wondering if this is a viable army composition that Stats is playing here. I feel like this was the start of a viable army composition, and before the Viking ghost count gets too high, it feels very good. But right now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, why would the next fight go better for Stats than the previous one? And I don't entirely see it. I think Tempest are the missing puzzle piece here. And it's a fairly obvious puzzle piece. Tempests are quite slow, of course. Not great at fighting directly. Good at fighting over time. And you just... The fact of the matter is you're going to need oracles, I think. You're going to need vision of your opponent's army in order to properly fight. Observers just keep getting sniped. How many observers have we built so far? There's still 5 observers around. 15 have gone down. 15 observers have fallen so far in this game. That is an astronomical amount. Much higher than we'd usually see. So 20 had been produced. Let's take a look at the spending here. We see much more army spending coming out of Stats. Also more tech spending coming out of Stats. Less on the economy though. Clem with serious investments into the economy. Now just keep that in mind as we go into the late game here. In which both economy and tech are important. As well as army. So yeah, this doesn't help us anything. Thank you, useless metrics. We appreciate you. Gonna get a big stim forward as well as a nuke. Is there an observer here? I think the answer to that is no. It's gonna fly over. Let's see if we can take it out. Yes, he can. It's gonna blast it up the little ghost. And here comes a fight that I just don't entirely see. I think, first of all, I think the ghost count is too low. I think this needs to be more ghost. Marines are not that useful. They're actually useless. We have a recall? Left side. Where's the mothership, by the way? Also left side. This base is toast. This base should be toast. This base isn't up. This base isn't up. I think Clem just wants to fight, but he probably wants to fight with 8 to 9 ghosts, and then this Viking count. I think he just eats his opponent. Honestly, I think he eats him. Although right now, 13 carriers against 22 Vikings. Earlier, it was 11 carriers against 35 Vikings. Those are different ratios we're talking about. Viking to carrier. This is not even reaching 2 Vikings per carrier, which is fairly low. Also supply-wise. I think the Marauder count is extremely high, which strikes me as odd, to be honest. I still believe that an Oracle here would be invaluable. Just for the vision. Look at this, the Disruptor flank! Oh, it's just a misrally. I thought this was a genius Disruptor flank that Clem hadn't noticed. And it was indeed a flank that Clem hadn't noticed, but also a flank that wasn't a flank. And thus the Disruptor died. This isn't even the entire army either out of Clem, by the way. And then again, Stats isn't maxed out, so this also technically isn't Stats' entire army. I think what Stats wants to do is max out one more time, then try to win a fight and push into his opponent's production. I think that is the only viable plan that he has here. Is these these ghosts moving in. Trying to get a big EMP on these Templars, or maybe snipes. That's one, that's two. Minus 300 gas, just like that. Just like that. No base here on the bottom side. New Nexus being produced. Double drop heading in towards the main base, maybe? Yep, seems to be the case. This is a large ground force. 10 ghosts are out. This is a much better ghost count. The Viking count has grown a little bit as well since last time. Since we last were here. And we're gonna miss an EMP. We're gonna hit a snipe. There's no observers with this army, is there? No, there's one. There's two. Two observers with this army. Disruptors try to hit. Yeah, the problem is the moment the lips siege up, there's no way to break that without Tempest. I mean, there's supply left over. Technically, there could be Tempest in this army, no? Couple of cheeky Tempest. That was an Oracle. What do wonders it feels like for this comp. So far, not here yet. Let's see, what do we have? Gonna get a large fight. Oh. Carriers in the back. We'll need to shoot their interceptors. Here we go. Archons ideally get a shot off. I don't think they did. Viking count at 20. Carrier count still at 9. But Vikings are being reproduced and carriers really aren't. And that is the real issue here. That is the real issue. Although Clem kind of running out of stuff here. This was not that bad of a fight, honestly, for Stats. The question is, can he take another fight like this if 8 more Vikings join the fray? And the answer to me seems to be a kind of a resounding no. 26 workers to 42. Clem is not really mining that much. Does have a base ready to fly over and can start dropping mules, obviously, which is going to be great. A Viking count continues to grow, back up to 26. This time against 9 carriers rather than 13. So the ratios are getting better for Clem. His money is going to be much higher than his opponents. He still has a lot of gas in the bank, which is the one resource he can't mule. I mean, we throw down what? How many orbitals do we have? 11 orbitals. You throw down what? 7, 8, 9, 10 mules? Like, that is game-ending income in my mind. But instead, we're just scanning a lot. Clem is too keen to fight here. I think if he just mines quickly, maxes out, and then tries again, I feel like it would be much better. Yeah, we're going to get a couple of mules here. I appreciate that. It's going to make it harder to fight, because ideally you want to have constant vision with your scans. But that's not at all what happened here. I really like the way Stats did this, though, with the carriers. I think that was kind of cute. I think that was actually kind of cute. But I don't think it's going to be enough. It's taking too long. And this right side base is an issue. If this right side base wouldn't be there, Stats actually is outmining his opponent significantly. All he needs to do is deny the bottom side, but that's not at all what's happening here. That's the exact opposite of what's happening here, as there's just a single storm remaining, and I think that one's going to get sniped eventually. As the Vikings continue microing oh so freaking well. Such a difficult battle here for both players, honestly. Seems to me that Clem is doing it slightly better with the help of the scans. That disruptor shot misses. We get an EMP. One more EMP is all we need. One EMP is all we need. Oh my god, all the ghosts are dying. Terrible control out of Clem for a second. But there's still only one storm remaining, and at the same time, 4 carriers did end up falling. Only 5 remain. Hey, the Vikings can just move in. I don't quite understand what Clem is waiting for. It's 32 Vikings to 5 carriers. He can just kill this. Absolutely. He can also just go to the ground and kill the stalkers after. I'm a little bit confused by all of this, but I don't actually think it should and it will matter, as a couple of marauders will show up. Ghost does get sniped. I'll say the carrier micro, or the unit control out of Stats has been pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. It really has been very good. But I feel like it just doesn't have the correct comp in the end. No Oracle, no Tempest seems to be a serious issue. This is just pure Stalker against even landed Vikings is not great. Carrier run by heading towards the far right. It's going to take out that base, but this base is now being set up. And I feel like this ground army is just too big to deal with. Once these lip siege up, you can fight somewhat against Ghost Marauder, but once Liberators arrive, then look at that. Everything's just being one-shot. Once an EMP hits, you know? It's terrible, terrible stuff, really. All your Stalkers just dying after being EMP'd. Now, Carrier run by is going to connect, but the Vikings also moving over. Do we have a recall available? Yes, we do. So that's probably going to be the plan of action. Recall just in time. I'm actually impressed by Stats' ability. It felt like he wasn't capable of doing anything here, but he's staying in, he's fighting, and he's fighting freaking well. Vikings now showing up. Ground army actually growing here for Stats, and look at the carriers. We're targeting the ground army as well. He's still down in army value, but a lot of that is going to be just Vikings. That was a big disruptor hit. Do we have a super battery available? We don't. Oh, that is such a... Oh, that is so unfortunate. With a super battery here, one could maybe imagine something, but now that the carriers have fallen, the Vikings can go to the ground, and... yeah, okay, that's an issue. I kind of forgot about that possibility. So that's what, 30? There's 24 Vikings. GG gets called. What a game this was. Holy crap. Absolutely epic late game banger between Clem and Stats, showing that he still has it when it comes to these large armies and controlling them. I feel like he was missing the Tempest puzzle piece there as the final thing. Dealing with Vikings from a distance, dealing with really anything from a long distance there would have been fantastic, but yeah, not quite what ended up happening. So that's sad to see. Clem does get the win, and that's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.